Welcome to a great time of the year where a best-of-7 series is all tied up, one game apiece. Oklahoma City went to Oakland, stole Game 1 from Golden State in impressive fashion at the end. Last night, Golden State returns the favorites. The Thunder Thursday hangout here from the Oklahoman's video studio, talking, of course, Thunder basketball. I got to say some business right off the top. As always, our Thunder coverage brought to you by J. Marshall Square, Oklahoma City's only big house concept. Find more information on their website, jmarshallsquare.com, located in Nichols Hills, close to downtown, very convenient. If you're looking for some housing, check them out. Joined by Darnell Mayberry, Jenny Carlson, and on the phone, Anthony Slater, getting out of Will Rogers World Airport. Him and Eric just landed. That was a mouthful intro here. Guys, last night, Steph Curry kind of took over the game. We've seen it all season long, the end of the second quarter, especially in the third quarter. Darnell, I'll start with you. What can the Thunder do to stop him?
The first thing they have to do is not turn the basketball over. If you turn the basketball over against Golden State, that's going to lead to easy transition points.
Saw a lot of that last night.
Correct. And you cannot afford to do that. You can't let him get easy baskets in transition. The second thing, I think, in half court, you got to stay glued to him. The Thunder did a great job of that in Game 1, especially Russell Westbrook. In Game 2, I think they let him get loose a lot more than he did in Game 1, and they lost track of him. They've got to stay glued to him and to his body.
What's that defensive game plan? Is it switch constantly?
In some ways it is, but I mean, you can't just let a shooter roam free, so sometimes you have to switch. But I think the Thunder switches a little too liberally sometimes, and
let it go
that
a
can
little
hurt
too easily.
them. Yeah.
I think sometimes they've ended up with Enes Kanter, especially. You get some of those big guys that end up on Steph Curry, and he just sees that as a free invitation to shoot the ball because he feels like he can get away from those guys. So sometimes I think the Thunder needs to fight a little bit more to stay on their man. It would mainly be Russell Westbrook or whatever guard might be in at the time, guarding Steph Curry. So they may have to look at that because they are pretty liberal in their switching, but I think they may need to stick a little bit more as the assignments are to stay with Steph Curry, not let him get one-on-one with a big.
The one thing that I would say, it's not time to panic. I mean, they just won one game, so you don't want to do like crazy things at this point. But one adjustment that I think Billy Donovan could make toward as the series progresses is putting Kevin Durant on him. Put some length on him at 6'10", 6'11", whatever Kevin Durant is these days, whatever he tells us he is these
Depends
days.
on who he's talking to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
On the roster
exactly.
online.
I say put that height on him, put that length on him, and make him work. You saw it with Klay Thompson on Russell Westbrook last night in Game 2. Try it with Kevin Durant at some point in this series on Steph Curry. Russell Westbrook did a great job in Game 1, but I think to mix it up a little bit, go with Kevin Durant on him.
Kevin Durant, what about those turnovers?
AC, you want to take that one? You saw that in person.
Yeah, Barry kind of wrote about it, but this guy didn't just kill them all night. He just had 17 in a 2-minute stretch and then 8 in another little 1-minute stretch. They kind of contained him. Otherwise, you mentioned the switching, but I thought last night, especially in that second half spurt, it was just some lazy defense when Serge Ibaka didn't get out on him on a couple of shots. There were some times where Steven Adams didn't know, should he jump out, should he stay with his man. So they just cannot give him any airspace. They just got to force him on the drive and just try to force tough layups from guys.
Yeah, when I thought guys in the first game, I mean, Steph Curry's going to hit shots. He's going to hit circus shots, really. I mean, I think the Thunder, one of the things they did really well in Game 1 was they didn't let one make become 6 makes. They didn't let, one three-pointer become a 15-2 Steph Curry run. And that was where, in my mind, the game really got out of hand for the Thunder. They just were not able to turn off the switch fast enough once it got going. They've got to figure out something in game to really clamp down when he starts to roll, because I think, as Barry wrote, 27 of the 30 minutes Steph Curry was on the floor last night, they did a pretty decent job on him. Just happened to be 3 minutes that were deadly.
And that goes back to, we mentioned letting him loose. Serge Ibaka let him loose for that 3. They switched. Russell Westbrook switched with Serge Ibaka. Serge took him on the wing, and he got loose for a 3-pointer. But then he got some easy points when Kevin Durant got the technical foul and fouled him on the 3-point shot. So those are the type of easy baskets that the Thunder cannot let Steph Curry get. If he gets those and starts to get hot and get rolling, you can't stop him.
Yeah, somebody mentioned to me on the live chat today was the foul on Iguodala on the 3-pointer, the nail, and I said, well, that was definitely a dumb play. But nothing was more dumb than giving Steph Curry 3 free throws on a 3-point attempt and getting a technical. I know Kevin Durant was upset. I get it. I understand the emotions of that game, but you can't let a guy who's already starting to pick up momentum step to the line, have a chance at a 4-point play. That was just really a deal breaker right there.
Yep.
Watching the Thunder Thursday Hangout here on newsok.com. If you're watching us live on NewsOK, you can participate. Go to newsok.com/video or newsok.com/live. Submit your question. I'll throw it at these guys, and you'll get a genuine, honest, genius answer from them.
Whoa. I wasn't told anything about genius here, Dave.
Now, Jenny, you participated in the chat this morning. What were some of the things that people were asking?
Just a lot of obviously concern. I mean, I think anytime you start to see the tide turn, even after that Game 1 victory, I think people want to know what can the Thunder do to adjust. I think one of the biggest things that people seem to be concerned about was Serge Ibaka. I think we mentioned him. Anthony may have done it just a second ago, but Serge just didn't have one of his finer moments. I mean, there's a lot being asked of this guy because he can play in the big lineup. He can play in the small lineup. He's guarding all different kinds of guys. But last night he just looked a little bit out of sorts. Definitely not one of his finer games when it comes to these playoffs. But, they're going to need Serge Ibaka to play better as this series goes on. They need everybody. But a guy with his flexibility, his ability to do so many different things, to not get very much at all out of him, I just think that that's a non-starter. Again, especially if you're going to turn it over as much as you were talking about, Darnell. I mean, turnovers are killer, and if they're going to turn it over that much, they got to make up for it, and a guy like Serge Ibaka's got to be better.
Which takes us.
He didn't get a shot last night for the first, 18 minutes. I believe the first shot came 6 minutes in the second quarter. I think when they do that, he just kind of gets disengaged when he just doesn't get the ball. He said it in the past. I don't like just standing in the corner for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes and not touching it because he was bad in the second half defensively. A little bit lazy, and he didn't say it post game, but maybe it's just because he wasn't involved offensively.
That ball brings energy, right?
Yep.
No doubt.
We mentioned you can submit questions. Mikey from Auckland, which for all I know is Mike Sherman sitting over in the sports department, has submitted this question. But guys, the question is, was it purely effort and a lack of basketball fundamentals that caused the Game 2 loss to the Thunder? Again, it was 118-91, or are the Golden State Warriors figuring out the Thunder's big man system?
I don't think it was all lack of focus and fundamentals. I think the Warriors were the desperate team. I think that Stephen Curry obviously got hot with 17 points in the third quarter, but a lot of it was a lack of focus. I mean, just losing Steph Curry, losing sight of him, allowing the Maurice Spateses of the Warriors, the Andrew Bogut's, those guys to kind of go off. And Slater had a stat today on Twitter. In Game 1, they were like 1 of 3 for 4 points. In Game 2, they were 13 for 14 for like 33 points. What trio was that, Slater? I mean, it was an incredible stat you put out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was all their centers. It was Bogut, Azili, Varejao, and Spate. They were 1 of 3 combined in Game 1, and 13 and 14 last night.
Yeah, so that tells me, I mean, there is a little bit of a lack of focus there when you let those type of role players go off. 13 and 14, I mean, that's hard to do. If it's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, that's one thing. But Ezeli and Bogut and Varejao, you can't let those guys go off on you.
Well, especially since we've seen what the Thunder bigs have been able to do against really good big men. I mean, look at how they put the clamps on LaMarcus Aldridge in that series against the Spurs. I mean, he was hitting, obviously, at a crazy rate through 2 games, but then he finished really pedestrian at about 30-something% from the floor in the last 4 games of that series. He's way more skilled offensively than those bigs for Golden State are, even collectively. So for them to shoot that high of a percentage, to get off that many shots for starters, I mean, that's really telling. And those bigs have to be better. Now, I'll admit, Steven Adams, if he doesn't remember part of the game last night, I would understand. He took a beating out there, guys. So, to me, maybe getting physical is the way that they're trying to counter. I don't know, but I really thought that they took the physicality to the Thunder last night. Yeah,
well, I think, look, we already mentioned, I thought Ibaka had a really bad game. Adams was beat up. I thought he played decent in the first half, and then, by the late third quarter, it was just kind of obvious, get him out of the game and get him some rest. And then Enes Kanter, it's just, it's looking increasingly like this series might not be for him. He's got to play, but it's just tough for him out on the court. And he wasn't even able to rebound last night. He didn't have an offensive rebound for only the 8th time in 95 games last night. So he just wasn't a factor on what he's usually a factor on, and he was exploited defensively by the bigs, by the guards. And this Thunder big man trio that has really been dominant, a lot of the season and all playoffs was not good yesterday.
Well, and I think they got out-rebounded by 9, which against the Warriors this season, that had not happened. In 5 games, the Thunder had always been the better rebounding team in those first 4 games, and obviously didn't always lead to success. But I think if they're going to win, they've got to out-rebound the Warriors. I mean, they just can't give them extra possessions. And again, I'll say it again, especially if they're going to turn the ball over the way they turned it over.
The one thing I will say about Mikey's question about the Thunder's big man system is that I had the chat yesterday going into Game 2, and the one thing I did anticipate the Warriors guards doing was trying to exploit the Thunder's bigs more on offense when they got the ball and they saw them in front of them. And that's Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala, Leandro Barbosa, all the other guys not named Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. And I thought that's what they did. Whenever they saw Steven Adams, Enes Kanter in front of them, I thought the Warriors guards attacked them more on offense. Even if they didn't score, it put pressure on the Thunder's defense, and it really put those big men in risky positions. So I thought that was a good job by the Warriors guards, whoever saw those big men on them to attack them.
Watching the Thunder Thursday Hangout here on newsok.com, brought to you by J. Marshall Square. Be sure to check them out at jmarshallsquare.com. I'm joined on the set today by Darnell Mayberry, Jenny Carlson on the phone with Anthony Slater. The photos you see rotating behind us, Nate Billings from the Oklahoma's photography staff. He was at Golden State shooting the fine photos, so we certainly appreciate his efforts. Game 3, shift gears, comes to Oklahoma City on Sunday night. That's a 7 p.m. tip-off. We'll go back to our comments here on newsok.com. Joe from Oklahoma City says, do you see the Thunder responding on Sunday similar to the response after the Game 1 loss against the Spurs?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to look at this Game 2 blowout against the Warriors as very similar to that Game 1 blowout against the Spurs. And, I think while there are some similarities in what the Thunder has to be sort of thinking, hey, we need to get back to that focus, mental tenacity that we had against the Spurs. Clearly, it's a different team. I mean, you're talking about guarding and doing things differently than they did against the Spurs. But, I do think that was, in a lot of ways, Darnell, I think that Game 1 loss to the Spurs was more of a mental kick in the pants than anything that they did. I mean, sure, they changed some things. They did some small things to try to get LaMarcus Aldridge slowed down, but it was more about they've got to lock in. And when they did, they kept the Spurs. I mean, the Spurs said as the series went on, we want to get out and run because we can't get shots in our half court. I mean, that's the type of thing the Thunder wanted to do and were able to do, and they need to try to do against the Warriors, but it's obviously a whole different ballgame with the youth and talent of the Warriors.
That's exactly right, Jenny. I mean, the Thunder will be better in Game 2. I don't think it's fair or wise to equate what happened from Game 1 and 2 in San Antonio to 1 and 2, or 2 and 3 in this case with the Warriors and Thunder. They're going to be at home. They're going to play better. I think the energy is going to be better. Right. The focus is going to be better. But this is a different team than the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, the Thunder does still match up well with the Warriors, but they don't match up as well with the Warriors as they did with the Spurs. There's a lot of firepower on this Golden State team, and the Thunder, if they're not careful, I mean, it's not just going to happen because they're at home and because they got blown out in Game 2. They've got to go out there and be disciplined, be focused, and be ready to play from tip-off. Or if not, I mean, the Warriors could easily come in here and win, not easily, but they could come in here and win a game Sunday night in Game 3.
Right. It's not just going to be about home court advantage suddenly turns the tide. The Thunder's really going to have to play well. I think they'll, like you said, I think they'll play better, but obviously they're going to have to, I mean, I know I've said it now, I think 4 times, but they've got to take better care of the ball.
Got to get the turnovers in check.
8 turnovers for Durant, my gosh.
Well, they were look, he's having trouble right now with like the way the Warriors are playing Robertson, which is not paying attention at all, like way worse than any other team. Draymond Green is basically just standing in the center of the floor as like a center fielder and just looking at Durant the whole time. And he is, I think, you could tell he was frustrated post-game. He said something about maybe I should just shoot over 3 people. But regardless, like, he can't just be so careless with the passes. I mean, he's just throwing it into guys' hands and deflections and just lobbing it around. I mean, those are just they're wasted possessions and they're points for the Warriors the other way. And they just changed the game.
Slater, I got a question for you. I mean, Deion Waiters' defense has been really good in this series, all playoffs really, and his offensive game has been pretty solid throughout the postseason. Should Billy Donovan play Deion Waiters more if Andre Robertson is sort of an issue for Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook on offense?
Mm-hmm. I mean, probably they don't want to do that because, look, Waiters got 30 minutes in game 1. And I think obviously he sat the 4th last night, so his minutes probably would have been down. But he'll get 30 minutes. He'll play the majority of the shooting guard minutes. The problem is, like, they still do need, if it's starter or if it's backup, like, they still need Andre Robertson to play some because, unless you want to go to Morrow or whoever, like, there's still that role, his role, which is about 20 minutes or so available. They need to figure out a way to utilize him better. Like, use that, I don't know what you want to call it, like brash arrogance of the Warriors that guy literally cannot do anything to us, and use it against him. He's actually, I think he's hit 5 of 9 threes the last 3 games. Maybe you just got to let him shoot it a couple more times, have him drive the baseline. I don't know exactly what to do with him because I'm not Billy Donovan. I'm not like a supremely like smart head coach, but they just got to figure out something to do because they know the Warriors' game plan right now. It's just don't even pay attention to them. So try to use that against them.
Kevin Durant's sort of flip question about should I just shoot over 3 people? If the alternative is turning the ball over and letting the Warriors get out in transition, my answer would be yes. Yeah. Yes, Kevin, shoot over 3 people, give your rebounders a chance to rebound the ball and see what happens. I like that as an alternative over turning it over.
Yeah, and the one thing about Andre Robertson, I really like what Billy Donovan is doing. He's trying to instill confidence in the young man, saying, look, we have you out there for a reason. You're open. Shoot the ball. Be aggressive. You have to attack these guys. If you don't, you're putting us in a bad position. And I think Andre did a good job of at least trying to take those shots and make plays at the rim in terms of attacking the basket.
Cleveland and the team that they're not even bothering to show up against, Toronto. My goodness, what a blowout that was in Game 1. They'll get in 2 more games before the Thunder returns to action again. Game 3 Sunday night here in Oklahoma City. Guys, Game 3, how important is it for Oklahoma City?
I mean, I think it's pretty vital to have a game that looks more like Game 1 than Game 2 for sure. I'm not saying it's must win because obviously there's a lot. I think there's a lot of basketball left in this series, but if you get roasted again by 20-something. That to me does not feel like a good step for the Thunder. So I won't say must win, but I definitely think we need to see some signs that they're returning to that Game 1 type of play as opposed to what we saw, especially in the second half of Game 2.
I'm going to say on a scale of 1 to 10, Jenny, I'm probably going to say 9.5.
Really?
Because, look, the Warriors only lost 2 games on their home floor this season, the regular season. I think the Warriors are much better equipped to win on the Thunder's home floor than the Thunder is to win on the Warriors' home floor. Even though we just saw it in Game 1.
Right.
The Warriors weren't playing all that well coming into the West Finals. They struggled with Portland, which basically has Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum, and a bunch of guys. So they weren't playing their best basketball. I think now the Thunder has their attention. And it's going to be really tough for the Thunder to get another home game in Golden State.
That's true.
So I think they have to take care of business and not lose a game on their home floor if they want to win the series.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Slater, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be
whatever.
What you guys say?
He's jet lagged. He doesn't know.
He's tired. He's just ready for a nap.
No, I mean, look, it is a completely different series than the Spurs series. They got a lot of things to figure out. They have to utilize the rebounds. Their rebounding differential is just like, I feel like it's an advantage they have to have every game. It's one Steve Kerr even conceded, in some of his comments. He's like, well, we're not going to win a rebounding battle. We just got to keep it close. And then they won one last night. So the Thunder they got to beat the Warriors up on the glass, and then they need to take care of the ball. I mean, it's pretty simple, I think.
The question is, how important is the Thunder winning Game 3?
I mean, important, obviously. I mean, I don't know. Every game's important. If they win or lose Game 3, then it's super important to win or lose, win Game 4. Like, they were down 2-1 to the Spurs, and then they rattled off 3 straight. So I'm not saying they can't then win Game 4 at home, win Game 5 on the road, and win Game 6 if they get hot. But I would advise, yes, getting ahead 2-1 and winning Game 3 at home.
Advised by AC Slater.
Thanks for the advice.
Anthony, I have a question. I have a question for you, Anthony. In-N-Out burgers, overrated or not?
Not overrated.
Overrated? Are you kidding me? Way overrated.
Outrageously underrated by Barry Trammell, who likes to say it's the same as Wendy's, which is just.
That's where I was going with this. I heard Barry talking about the In-N-Out burgers. He wasn't impressed. Now, I got to say, it's maybe not the best burger I've ever had, but it's pretty good.
It's good. It's better than Wendy's.
Very good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is better than Wendy's.
I'm not going to hate on Wendy's or any other burger.
They don't sponsor us anything. No. Because if they do, Wendy's is the greatest burger of all time.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up with this. Again, Game 3, Sunday night, 7 o'clock, Oklahoma City, Golden State. Jenny, predictions?
Oh, man. I've been thinking about this today, and I've really been going back and forth. I'll say Thunder because while I agree with you, Darnell, home court doesn't automatically win this game for Oklahoma City. I do think the atmosphere is going to be off the charts. I do think the focus is going to be there for the Thunder. So I'm going to say the Thunder wins. But I think if they win this game, I think they lose 4. So I don't know if that's a bonus prediction for you, but I'm going to go Thunder in 3, losing 4.
There's a lot of time between now and Sunday. Steph Curry had the elbow. Steven Adams is incredibly banged up. I mean, a lot of guys are dealing with injuries right now, and that's a lot of time for the coaches to make adjustments. So a lot can happen between now and Sunday. Right now, I'm leaning toward the Thunder. I do think they're going to play better at home. I do think the focus and the energy is going to be better. I think they're going to make some adjustments and try to limit Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson a little bit better than they did in Game 2. But I think it's going to be a close game. And in any close game against a championship caliber team like the Warriors, I don't really trust the Thunder. So I'm picking the Thunder right now, but if it's a close game, I would not be surprised if the Warriors are able to eke one out.
Anthony?
I'm kind of with Jenny where I think it's going to be a split, and I'm not ready to say which one is which. But I'll take the Thunder at home. I think if they just play hard, and Kevin Durant just shoots instead of passes, maybe that they've played this team basically to a draw. I just think the second half they just got super sloppy with it. I'll take Thunder.
Anthony's buying into my shoot it over 3 people instead of turn it over.
Hey, when
idea.
he was shooting it over anyone he wanted last night, it was going in.
That's what I'm saying. Just go ahead and shoot it, Durant.
Let
it's
it fly, big fella. Let it fly.
Last time we saw Golden State, it was February 27th. Steph Curry hit that ridiculous three-pointer right in front of Anthony and Eric. I believe they were courtside at that game. Should be fun. Game 3 coming up Sunday night over at Chesapeake Energy Arena. Plenty of coverage between now and then, including game night in the Oklahoman and online at newsok.com. You've been watching, and thank you for watching, the Thunder Thursday Hangout here on newsok.com, brought to you by our friends J. Marshall Square.